Hello, everybody. Hello, Dean Blundell.
Hi, friend. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Really
New
good. Really good.
studio.
Just
Oh,
enjoying the. Yeah, it's nice here, isn't it? It's really nice. Um, really enjoying the Schadenfreude from yesterday. Really enjoying all the Schadenfreude from yesterday. I'm in Canada. Love America. Watching that blue tsunami wash across the United States of America yesterday, giving hope to so many beautiful people. 360 million Americans trapped, held hostage. I'm enjoying that Schadenfreude. We'll get to all that today. I'm enjoying the Schadenfreude here in Canada of defections from Maple MAGA and the destruction of the dollar store version of whatever Trump fucking built in the United States. Really excited for that. I'm good, man. Today has been a really encouraging day for me. How about you?
I think that was all good news last night. I don't think Republicans won anywhere. I think Democrats swept across the board. I think we saw a new kind of leadership that we need in the Democratic Party. I think voters were clear as anything. The last time we've had anything like this happen was before the last big blue wave, which is when Donald Trump was last in power. So we'll talk all about the results later on, but this is a remarkable moment. The people did it. The people understand what's at stake, and they deserve all the credit for this incredible turnout yesterday and these incredible results that really got the president upset this morning. It looked like,
Yeah, or something, right?
yeah.
Got him something. Like he really ramped up the dementia. He finally had a sober moment today. We'll get to that as well. But listen, let me just kind of cover this whole thing before we get started with. It is an emotional. This should be an emotional podcast for so many people that actually follow us, and so many people that subscribe on Substack, so many of our paid subscribers, so many of our free subscribers, people that watch. Hit those hearts, hammer those that little box in the corner with the arrow, because we're going to get to something today that is healing, that is Schadenfreude related. I use that word even though it is German. I use that word because it describes how I feel today, which is when you see bad things happen to bad people, when bad people get a bad result because good people decided to show up. When you see a changing of the guard, when you see a pivoting, when you see an awakening, when you see hope, when you see a sliver of empathy, when you see real consequences show up for those that deserve to pay them the most. That happened in America yesterday. And I put out a piece today because I think it's important. We're going to get to all 5 of these stories on the FiveStack today. Really appreciate everybody being here. Don't forget, you can go subscribe, deanblundell.substack.com, narrative.org. I want to get to your Michael Wolff interview yesterday, which was fucking awesome. I want to talk a little bit about the value that you can get. Because what we're trying to do is we're trying to come alongside America, and we've done this now for several months, and we're not going to stop. And yesterday's result gave me even more gusto. I don't know about you. It gave me even more hope. And we'll get to some Canadian shit today. We'll get to all the American stuff today. But it almost looks like, it almost feels like, with what happened in the United States yesterday, which was not an earthquake, it was not a wave, it was a movement that arrived with a tsunami. It gives me hope that, all hope is not lost, that America can be America again, that we can have our friend back. And that's what's really important to me here in Canada. And also encouraging my friends in the United States that, Maple MAGA set a real fucking setback here up in Canada as well, with the Timu Trump version, Pierre Poilievre suffering major setbacks,
Tell me about
et
that. I'm really
cetera, et
interested in
cetera.
we're not going to get time for a full readout on that story, but I'm really curious. What's going on with PP?
Oh my God. Well, everybody's kind of aware that we really kind of dodged what happened in the United States up here in Canada with the election of Mark Carney and a historic defeat of Pierre Poilievre, who was really kind of the dollar store version of Donald Trump, running on the same populist bullshit, anti-DEI, parental controls over your kids, fuck the experts, fuck schools. He is literally like just the cheapest, most populist, nerdy incel version of Donald Trump. He had a 30-point lead. No, it's fucking true. He had a 30-point lead going into the election. Mark Carney arrived on the scene 3 months before the election started. Just the idea that an adult was in the room with character, with values, with virtues that Canada could trust, a technocrat who had a social responsibility to help Canadians, to fight back. I call him the mega killer because he is Mark Carney. It destroyed any hope that he had and his 30-point lead. Mark Carney now is on the precipice of forming a majority government. He was given a minority government because Yesterday, he puts out a budget that it doubles, like the deficit doubles. It went from 42 to almost like $80 billion
That's not a
yesterday.
good sign normally. That's
Oh
a
no, it's a
problem.
fucking great sign. It was
Yeah.
music to my eyes and ears because all
Why
the
do you
money
say that?
goes because it goes into building a military we can actually count on. It goes into infrastructure and investment. It goes into accelerating housing plans for people that needs houses. It goes to matching different contributions and grants for different provinces so that we can build our healthcare up. We can hire doctors, hire nurses. So I don't give a fuck what Canada spends, and let me and neither should Americans. But America's crazy right now. I don't care what Canada spends on securing Canada. And so as soon as that budget dropped, a bunch of conservatives in the Maple MAGA party who are kind of dyed in the wool liberals, but have, conservative leaning issues and they've been conservatives their whole lives, they had a look at that budget and went, I'm going to choose Canada.
Mhm.
And so a gentleman from Atlantic Canada named Chris Detremont, he crossed the floor immediately, handed in his resignations, like, my party's not going to vote for this budget, but I know how important Canada is. I know that we need to rebuild Canada's infrastructure. I know we're on the precipice of a movement. I'm going to go and join Mark Carney, who really specifically is not a liberal. He's not a conservative. He's just a fucking guy who knows what he's doing. He knows the economy. He knows how to build. He knows the people. He knows the product. He knows who we are. He knows our identity. And there are four more conservatives who are going to leave the Maple MAGA movement. And trust me when I tell you, it is a Maple MAGA movement. Like in Canada, I know we've got a lot of American listeners here. I mean, trust me when I tell you, we also dodged a bullet because we were that close to having the pipsqueak loser version. And this is a really big statement when I say a loser version of Donald Trump,
Mhm.
sent to the prime minister's office here in Canada. So he is now in full meltdown. He's got lots of defections. Canada is choosing to build,
That's
choosing
right.
to move forward. And Maple MAGA is shitting their pants. They've shut down all comms. This is the Conservative Party of Canada. I just call them Maple MAGA. They're just a regime like Donald Trump. And so between yesterday's events with the budget here in Canada and what happened in America, where they chose character, where they chose empathy, where they chose love, where they chose inclusion, where they chose democracy over whatever the fuck Donald Trump is peddling right now, I feel really, really, really good about getting North America back to where we were and starting off on a different direction because, my God, yesterday, today gave every American and every Canadian hope.
I love what you're saying, and I think you're absolutely right. I think, what we saw yesterday was a shirking of this identity politics and going back to what really matters, which is values and policy. It's so important. We're going to have lots more conversation around the election, but let's talk about what's went on in the Supreme Court today at number 5. The Supreme Court heard arguments on Trump's sweeping tariffs today, and the justices, included conservatives, appear deeply skeptical that the president has the legal authority to implement these tariffs at all, to impose tariffs on the people, because what they were saying was that in fact these are taxes on nearly every American and every American trading partner. Trump has claimed a 1977 emergency power law that gave him unlimited tariff authority, but Justice Sotomayor was blunt. This is not a presidential power, it's a congressional power. And then Chief Justice Roberts openly questioned whether this violates the court's major questions doctrine, which requires explicit congressional authorization for policies with major economic consequences. It's a really big deal. It looks to me like the majority of the justices are not in favor of the Trump tariffs. Maybe one or two were clearly in favor, but most of them seem to be leaning the other way. We'll listen to Gorsuch in a moment, but I'm really interested in your take because this is such a big issue for Donald Trump. He's losing his economic agenda.
Yeah, he's losing. Well, he's losing everything. If you don't count on yesterday, let's just isolate the Supreme Court decision today, or oral arguments, not decision. You can expect that in about 2 weeks. Just a little context. Traditionally, things like this are heard in a matter of months. This was expedited to the T, where they said, "Hey, we need to expedite oral arguments. We need to have a decision because Donald Trump has lost in 3 different federal courts and continued to appeal and kick this up." Because he's a loser, and that's what fucking losers do. He lost in the International Customs Court. He lost in a district court. He lost in federal court. And now he has kicked this up to the Supreme Court. Traditionally, this doesn't happen this fast. And the reason why they're doing this is because the Supreme Court of the United States, save a couple of outliers like that piece of shit Clarence Thomas, possibly Gorsuch, possibly Kavanaugh, Kavanaugh and Alito as well. Kavanaugh, Alito, Johnson, or sorry, Clarence Thomas. I expect those guys because they kind of didn't give Trump and his lawyers the kind of ride you would expect in terms of asking critical questions today. Every other Supreme Court justice did, which was music to my ears. And if you follow anybody today, specifically some people that are contributing or actually at the courthouse, listening to the Supreme Court arguments, people that are entitled to this, people that understand it, like Steve Vladeck, who is a CNN contributor. As soon as the morning arguments were done, he says prediction time. And I want to read this to you because it's really fucking important. I did not hear 5 votes to uphold tariffs. Arguments are always predictive, but aren't always predictive, but I think at least 6-3 against, maybe even 7-2. To not just strike down Trump's ability to tariff anybody that he wants, any time that he wants, for any fucking bullshit reason that he wants, but his entire IEEPA idea that he can do anything he wants any fucking time he wants. And that just doesn't apply to tariffs, my friends. My beautiful American friends, specifically living in and around the Broadview, Illinois area, watching your neighbors get kidnapped and disappeared off the streets. That applies to that as well. That applies to every single fucking impulse Donald Trump has to enact Project 2025, to cancel the 2026 election, to turn America into a war zone, a predictively, perceptively bullshit war zone, so he can justify doing exactly what he's doing with tariffs. So great news out of Washington again, on top of great news out of New York, Virginia, California, and across the United States of America. It appears to me, and I would love your thoughts, because you're super close to Terrence Goggin and you do understand the Constitution and you have read the Federalist Papers. This it looks like America's institutions are standing firm for the first time.
It does look like they really are respecting the Constitution. Look, you can't divorce what happened yesterday from the questioning that happened today at the Supreme Court. There's a resounding no to Donald Trump heard from the voters, and the Supreme Court are not immune to hearing those things. They obviously understood the mandate that Democrats seemed to get yesterday in their resounding victory across the country, and that carried through in their skeptical questioning today of the SCOTUS justices. There really was a question about whether he had all these emergency powers. This was really the question that seemed to come up a lot, and it was Neil Gorsuch who, in talking to the U.S. Solicitor General, inquiring from the U.S. Solicitor General about how could where does this end? Do they extend this now to war powers? Let's take a listen to that moment, and it really reveals where Gorsuch, as a conservative justice, is leaning.
There's a reason to accept it, though. That's what I'm struggling and waiting for. What's the reason to accept the notion that Congress can hand off the power to declare war to the president?
Well, we don't contend that. Again,
well, you do. You say it's unreviewable. There's no manageable standard, nothing to be done. And now I think tell me if I'm wrong. You backed off that position.
Maybe that's fair to say.
Okay, all right.
That would be an abdication. That would really be an abdication, not a delegation.
I mean, that's a big deal. You've got the U.S. Solicitor General who's arguing this case on behalf of Trump, who's saying, yeah, I was wrong. And you got Gorsuch, the justice, telling him that, perhaps you've gone too far on this idea. And that, the whole case really rests on this.
And then the lawyer was like, I guess we have kind of backed up. I mean, this is a fucking major decision. He's like, I guess we have listened. If you don't think every single one of those Supreme Court justices watched what happened in New York, Virginia, New Jersey, California yesterday, and the margin of fucking victory factored that into today's decision and conversation and oral arguments, and if you don't think, and this is really important, that the beleaguered Supreme Court of the United States of America, which has been long since proven captured between Alito, Thomas, Kavanaugh, Gorsuch to a lesser extent, maybe Amy Coney Barrett. I mean, John Roberts might be one of the worst individuals in the world. If you don't think they're looking for some kind of political win here, you're nuts.
Well, they certainly understand. They're human beings. They see what's going on. They see a president that's busy warmongering. They see a president that's, gone completely nuts in terms of bulldozing parts of the White House, who's, issuing tariffs just on a whim. I mean, you can't issue tariffs based on the fact that someone put an ad out. It's not a legitimate reason to institute new tariffs or to call off tariff negotiations. And these powers that he claims allows him to be completely responsive to his moods, which is the last thing we can afford to have in the United States right now, obviously, because this guy is completely out of control and had a real meltdown to that. We'll get to this to the meltdown in a second. But first, let's talk more about the election results yesterday. This is number 4. Democrats swept every major election yesterday in what amounts to a total repudiation of Trump's second term. Abigail Spanberger won Virginia's sponsors governorship by 15 points. Mikey Sherrill took New Jersey by 13 points. I could not believe that result. And in California,
I told you yesterday, you're like, oh, I think it's closer than that.
It looked so close on the polls, but boy, I mean, that was that was almost like a landslide when you talk about New Jersey. And in California, voters approved a ballot measure to redraw congressional districts specifically as a check against Trump. Exit polls show the pattern was clear. Most voters disapproved of Trump, and 9 in 10 of those voters backed Democratic candidates with about
30 points, kids. Prop 50 passed by 30 fucking points.
Turnout yesterday in California on a proposition is unbelievable. It's hard to even explain this to people what the proposition is. But not only did they understand, they showed up in their millions to vote in favor of Prop 50, and it is going to be a game changer going into the next election. I'd like to hear your take on this incredible day for the Democrats.
Yeah, because I'm not smart, I'd like to dumb it down for everybody so that I can put it out in a language that everybody easily understands. What is Prop 50? Prop 50 is an answer to gerrymandering in Texas, where Donald Trump called Wheels Greg Abbott, and he's like, I'm entitled to 5 votes. I'm entitled to 5 seats. Yeah. Change the district so that we can discount the votes of every marginalized human being I'm currently attacking with my ICE squad. And so he's like, yeah, Wheels over to the phone. He's like, no problem, I'll do that for you. So he does that. Texas is a fucking nightmare state. They should become their own country and go do their own thing. Fuck them. And then California, because Gavin Newsom's like, okay, that's wrong. If you're going to do that, I'm going to cancel those gerrymandered seats out. I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to redistrict. So what he effectively did was build a firewall. Mm-hmm. Because Trump is trying to pre-rig this election, which if you watched him today in his address, and we'll get to that in just a moment, where he's like, okay, no. I don't know if you saw this. It was fucking brilliant. He's like, okay, well, now we got to cancel mail-in voting and we got to cancel the filibuster. Like, somebody's got to do something, because he took it in the face yesterday. Yeah. So Prop 50 is one of the biggest fucking big ball moves in politics I've ever seen in my life, by a guy who originally started to kind of go down that road of like, let me see if I can endear myself to MAGA. Let me see if I can try and understand a MAGA. And Gavin Newsom, who, interviewed Charlie Kirk, and he interviewed Benny Johnson, all these fucking losers from MAGA. And then he's like, whoa, this is a fucking terrible idea. Maybe I shouldn't do that. And now he's just mirroring everything they do. And he's doing it in a way where he's giving California the opportunity to save America. That's what happened yesterday.
And California showed up to save America. Everyone understood the stakes, and everyone's taking responsibility. And I love seeing that across the board. I think it's also very telling today that Kansas Republicans have sort of pulled back their efforts to call in a special session for their gerrymandering efforts for the president. So you're seeing Republicans backing down in red states that were going to be gerrymandering. It'll be interesting to see if Democrats continue on this path, because in a way, what they've done, the Republicans have given Democrats the key to absolutely winning next year's elections, because now they have Prop 50, they have it as a guide. If the Republican efforts fall away, and if they can't even win the seats they've gerrymandered, which is a real possibility, Democrats could really sweep this by rigging it a little bit themselves as a response to Donald Trump's rigging. And wouldn't that be something that was his fault?
Well, all they're doing is undoing the rigging by putting everything back on that level playing field. And to that point, the importance of New Jersey and Virginia yesterday. Mikey Sherrill in New Jersey, Abigail Spanberger in Virginia. By the way, 2 very impressive women. Mikey Sherrill, former helicopter pilot for the U.S. Air Force. She's a lawyer. She was an assembly person. And then you got Abigail Spanberger. who also, same thing. She was with the CIA. She worked out of Langley. She defended America ruthlessly. You have people of character in the room now, which is really sending it's a moment. Like between Mamdani and of course New Jersey and Virginia, we're in a fucking beautiful, beautiful moment where people are going, oh, virtues, values, character. Yeah, that really fucking matters to
You
me.
know what I also noticed is there are no big name white men elected yesterday. It was 2 women and Mamdani. Now,
And as a couple of white guys, nothing makes me happier.
yeah. I mean, it really is a repudiation of everything Donald Trump is fighting for. This patriarchy that he's trying to keep in power.
Yeah,
I mean, it's
he's
sort of
not
he's telling
fighting for
everyone,
me. We're people of means. He's
Yeah.
not fighting for me. He's not fighting for you. There's so many of us out there, and now we're starting to exercise our voice, and we're starting to see it. But here's why getting back to the gerrymandering thing is important, because they flipped every fucking seat in every available jurisdiction, whether it be statewide, whether it be federal, doesn't matter. They flipped everything or kept everything and increased their lead by double digits. The repudiation was incredible, and here's why that's important when it comes to gerrymandering. This is really cool because Virginia, New Jersey, depending on what Kansas, Indiana, Ohio, and other states that are trying to, deliver a rigged election to Trump to pre-rig it, to pre-grease the tracks, they'll do the same fucking shit now. And there's nobody to stop them. To Donald Trump's point, elections have consequences, my man.
They sure do, which brings us to number 3. Trump's first press conference after the Democratic tsunami was a little low energy this morning. It felt like a little bit like a political wake. The cadence was off, the confidence was gone, and he openly admitted, I don't think it was good for Republicans. He's right. You're right, sir. Before he blaming the government shutdown, he does credit himself. He says that the reason that they didn't win is because he wasn't running
on any of the ballots,
which is nonsense, probably in all
Well,
likelihood.
that's him. That's his self-aggrandizing side, right? Where he's like, he cannot leave himself out of who won or who lost. He did it with Mark Carney, where he's like, well, I said I hope the best man wins, and you're the best man apparently, so I endorsed you, which is why you're popular.
Yeah,
Like,
but he also
it's the
can't
same
take
fucking-
any responsibility for the fact that it's actually his policies, his incredibly poor administration and regime, his disastrous efforts in terms of everything that he's been doing. That's the real reason Republicans lost. It's not because his name wasn't on the ballot. He would have lost too if his name was on the ballot. Here's a little clip from that press conference this morning.
But I thought we'd have a discussion after the press leaves about what last night represents and what we should do about it, and also about the shutdown, how that relates to last night. I think if you read the pollsters, the shutdown was a big factor, negative for the Republicans. And that was a big factor. And they say that I wasn't on the ballot was the biggest factor. But I don't know about that. But I was honored that they said that. And I just want to thank everybody for being here. A very special thanks to Vice President J.D. Vance. But I thought we'd have a discussion.
By the way, I had to boost the audio on that because he's so low energy and so soft spoken that in order for people to hear it, I actually had to boost the volume. He was not happy at all, and he's basically telling Johnson and the senators, let's come back for a little conversation afterwards because we're gonna
kick the press out, and I'm gonna ask you guys what the fuck happened.
A real come to Jesus moment. And the shutdown, I will, Democrats have the advantage now. The shutdown is now all Republican. It's all Trump.
He admitted it.
He admitted it himself. He never does things like that.
Dude, if I'm the Democratic Party of the United States of America, I'm taking that clip and I am crushing it. I am putting tens of millions of dollars into ad campaigns because he just fucking owned it. That was 2 narratives that came from his response to like a crushing loss across the board yesterday. Across the board. I cannot stress that enough. That was a repudiation of him. Repudiation of Steve Miller. Repudiation of RFK Jr., whatever the fuck he believes. Repudiation of MAGA ISIS Barbie, Caroline Levitt. Just a pure repudiation of everything that he stands for.
The entire administration, the entire regime is just a disaster. And that's
Kristi Noem, J.D. Vance, who this morning J.D. Vance is, Rubio, did you see J.D. Vance? Where he's like, why can't we all just get along? We need to work harder and better together. Like he knows it's coming.
Yeah.
I would advise every single human being, by the way, in the MAGA regime, whether you're a cabinet member or not, if you've helped this man after last night, after what I heard from the Supreme Court today, before I get further, to preserve your records and get a fucking lawyer.
Mhm.
Get a fucking lawyer because it's coming. The narratives that come out of that are interesting to me because Donald Trump still cannot stop telling everybody how important he was. And, well, if it wasn't for me, where he's like, he suffered the biggest political loss he suffered since he lost in 2020.
Yeah.
And he said, and I quote, "It was an honor that pollsters said if I'd have been on the ballot, they wouldn't have lost. It was an honor." That was a disaster last night. And he managed to pick out one comment, which he fucking made up, by the way, and say, well, yeah, but I'm honored to not be involved with any of those losers. He didn't campaign with the dude in New Jersey who Mikey Sherrill beat. He refused to endorse the lady who lost, black lady. Of course, that's why he refused to endorse her, who lost in New Jersey to Abigail Spanberger.
Yeah, he did.
Just said vote for the Republican candidate. He did no work. He didn't give a shit about the state. He just thought that the aura of Trump would be able to deliver a win, which makes me wonder, number one, how sick and out of it that man really is. And number two, what I watched yesterday and this morning makes me wonder how unwell he really is. Because it wasn't just low energy. Towards the end of his, comments in the morning where he accepted, which is fucking crazy. This guy's been on about rigged elections for like years and years and years. And he's like, yeah, it's kind of our fault, the shutdown. I'm like, whoa. Where he effectively said at the end of it, I can't believe this is happening because I'm a king in so many countries and I'm a king. And by the way, I just got back from Japan. They had kamikaze pilots and then he trailed off into nowhere. And if you go to deanblundell.substack.com, you can read it. So those two narratives that are coming out of it is A, complicit. He understands the end is nigh. B, that man is so unwell. He can't even fucking manage to kind of explain or have a conversation with anybody or even deliver remarks without talking about his recent trip to Japan and kamikaze pilots. Like, it's fucking bizarre.
He also just looked bad. I mean, he looked ashen. He's like breathless. He not really forming sentences. As I mentioned, I had to boost the audio just to hear what he was saying. And this whole notion of I'll ask the press to leave. I mean, it's basically saying, we're going to, we have some really serious problems we've got to fix. This is very unlike him. It makes you really think that he's very unwell. And one of the things he said yesterday, exactly 1 year ago today, he said, we had that big, beautiful victory exactly like last night. It was not expected to be a victory. It was very Democrat areas, but I don't think it was good for Republicans. It was good for Republicans. I don't think it was good. I'm not sure it was good for anybody. And this is me trying to make sense of a Trump transcript here, but
good luck.
He is acknowledging that it was a really awful day. And
do you want me to read you the transcript? Because I actually had it transcribed. So I transcribed everything that he did today, and it was truly fucking remarkable because he doesn't make any sense. Like, this gentleman can bullshit with the best of them, but his inability to actually finish a sentence, and I don't know why we keep giving him a pass. Like, I don't know why the mainstream media keeps doing this. Exactly 1 year ago, we had that big, beautiful victory. Exactly last night, it was not expected to be a victory. It was a very Democratic area, but I don't think it was good for Republicans. I don't think it was good. I'm not sure it was good. But we had an interesting evening, and we learned a lot, and we're going to talk about that, and I'll say a few remarks, and after that, I'll ask the press to leave. That was comment number one in my piece. Yeah. Comment number two, this is verbatim. Buddy, he says, I thought we'd have a discussion after the press leaves about what last night represented, but we should do about it, and also the shutdown and how it relates to last night. I think you read the pollsters, the shutdown was a big factor negative for Republicans, and that was a big factor. This is a fucking child. This sounds like a 2-year-old. And they say that I wasn't on the ballot was the biggest factor, but I don't know about that. But I was honored the way they said that. And I just want to thank everybody for being here. And especially thank Vice President J. Dean Vance, who's doing a terrific job. That's me. And then he went on to say, it's time for Republicans to do what they have to do. That's terminate the filibuster. It's the only way you can do it. And you don't need to terminate.
What's
What's that?
happening? You know, Trump is dreaming in Technicolor if he thinks the filibuster is going anywhere. They can't
Save him.
muster the votes. I mean, they can't. It won't happen. So, go on, dream on, but it's not happening.
Oh, just wait. It gets better. This is when the cheese starts to come off the Trump cracker.
Yeah.
If you don't terminate the filibuster, you'll be in bad shape. We won't pass any legislation. There'll be no legislation passed for 3.25, whatever the fuck that means, I think, years. We have 3.25 years. That's a long time, but they can't do an extension. And John, I think, whoever the fuck John is,
John Thune.
John,
John Thune.
I think they've done an extension every time. They've been asked forever. No idea who he's talking about. I think the Democrats.
Yeah, he's talking about the Democrats there.
Yeah, but he doesn't. He fucking never said. He's so fucking out of it. He doesn't like. He's so lost. He's so confused. He's got full on dementia. Like, is there a stage 6 or 7? Because that's what he's got.
I don't know.
And then he's like, I think they've done an extension every time. This is the first time they haven't done one. Extensions are supposed to be easy. If they don't want to do an extension, they won't do any bill, even a simple bill. And we should do our own bills. We should get out. We should do our own bills. I'm reading verbatim what he said. And we should open up, and we should start tonight with country's open, congratulations. And then we should pass voter ID, and we should pass no mail-in voting, and we should pass all the things that I want to pass to make our election secure.
This is a dictator wishing away an entire constitution. This is a man who wants to seize power from the people and implement a completely unpopular.
He can't fucking finish a sentence, dude.
Yeah, this is what happens. He lost. He doesn't make any sense, and he's talking about things that just politically can't happen. It's like it's not going to happen. So. This is a guy who's lost.
Dude, and not lost in more ways than one. Yeah. Let me finish. We should pass all the things I want to pass our elections, to make our elections safe and secure. And then he says, because California almost unanimously voted against voter ID, all we want is voter ID. You go to a grocery store, you have to give ID. He's never been to a grocery store.
I don't give my ID when I go to a grocery store.
You go to a gas station, you give ID. Never done that before either. But for voting, they don't want they want no voter ID. It's only for one reason, because they cheat. We would pass that in 15 minutes. If you don't get it, you'll never pass that. You'll never talk about mail-in ballots. Mail-in ballots make it automatically corrupt. If you have mail-in ballots automatically, it's corrupt even.
He knows
that those are verbatim words from the president of the United States.
Who is talking there about instituting a complete dictatorship, by the way, against the wishes of the people. Meanwhile, we can't get a winning congressperson from Arizona to even get sworn in the House so we can deal with the Epstein papers and so many other issues that need to come up. Let's move to the next story, which is also election related, but this is something that's very near and dear to your heart. Yesterday's election weren't just about a blue wave. They were evidence of a fundamental shift in American politics away from tribal party loyalty towards something much deeper, which you've been speaking about for a long time, character. So this is all from deanblundell.substack.com, your column there. Tell me a little bit about what you mean about this dramatic shift, that was really borne out by the two governor winners and also the mayor of New York.
I thank you for asking me, and thanks for including this in the FiveStack today. What little people know is that every day Zeb just sends me a text like stories, and I show him the ones that I want to talk about, and sometimes we don't get to them. This is one I really wanted to get to.
It's a good one.
And I wanted to get to it because I think that between what's going on in the United States of America, what happened in Canada here with the repudiation of Pierre Poilievre's Timu Trump bullshit and the election of Mark Carney, a real technocrat, a guy with values and virtues, practices Stoic philosophy, which is important to me as well. That's just a quick aside. I just like the philosophy. It's about truth, temperance, justice, wisdom, the things that really matter when it comes to the one word that I think is really important that everybody needs to reorient towards when it comes to choosing leaders. And that's character. America is facing this character test. And last night, watching them pass that character test with flying colors, to choose right over wrong, to choose truth over lies, to choose humanity over inhumanity, to choose empathy over anger, to choose love over hate, to choose freedom over Donald Trump's version of freedom, which is a fascist authoritarianism. And what happened in New York really, really kind of made me aware and awake for the first time in a really long time. Because Zoran Mamdani, and say what you want about him, he calls himself a social, what is he, socialist Democrat?
Democrat, yeah, social
A
democrat.
socialist Democrat. He doesn't engage in the culture bullshit. He stands up for the human beings that he stands up for. He stands up for humanity, as does Miss Spanberger, as does Mikey Sherrill, as was Prop 50, which was intended for, which is to allow people to choose, to allow people of character to decide who their leaders are going to be, and not allow someone tell them who their leaders are going to be. And it struck me last night because I've been going on and on and on about this, because the one thing that I think a lot of Americans and Canadians that are caught up in, lending their agency and identity to a political party or an ideology, you have been fucked over. You have been tricked into that. You have been funneled into that through years of psyops, through churches, through lobby groups. Oh, do this or else this is going to happen to you. And I'm the only person that can save you. And don't you want to stand up for your religion? Don't you want to stand up for your community? Don't you want to stand up for your lobby groups? What I saw yesterday with the death of Maple MAGA here in Canada gave me hope for the end of identity politics, gave me hope for the end of political parties that treat us like marks. It gave me hope that people would look past party and vote for one word, character. That means so much to me, and it means so much to people who are like, what is this thing you speak of? Character? What are values? What are virtues? I'll tell you mine. And these are my guiding virtues and my guiding values. Courage to do the right thing when it's the hardest possible fucking thing to do. Wisdom to know what to do when it matters the fucking most. Temperance to not let your emotions get the best of you. To treat the people around you as they should be treated despite how you feel. And more importantly, justice. Justice, the right thing at the right time, all the time. Justice that is deliberate, that takes the human spirit and the person into account and not industry or business. And Mr. Mamdani's election in New York, it didn't matter what party he ran for. If I was in New York, I would have voted for him, because it's not about anti-establishment to me. It's about character and values. Mr. Mamdani has those. Here in Canada, Mark Carney, character and values. Mark Carney is literally turning the Liberal Party into what we thought the Conservative Party used to be. But he's also got this social responsibility to him that lives within the character and the values of what is important to him, which is the people, which is this country, which is sovereignty, which is doing the right thing when it's really hard, when someone and a group of lobbyists and some guys from Big Pharma are standing next to you going, hey, can we get a minute? We've got $20 million that we'll give you and your family or your bursary or your foundation, but you just got to get this thing passed. I got this feeling yesterday that the rest of the United States and Canada, I think, is a little more forward thinking when it comes to this. That we might stop voting for people according to the color of their jerseys. That we might stop giving our agency to these fucking disgusting businesses that represent other disgusting businesses who want only two things from you and me, which is our agency, our vote, and our money. Because I saw hope in New York, I saw hope in New Jersey, I saw hope in Virginia, I saw hope in California, because that's what people voted for yesterday. Listen, this was as much a repudiation or an indictment of Donald Trump and the regime and his attempted fascist takeover of the United States, as it was an awakening for the rest of the United States of America and people here in Canada, that values, virtues, and character are the most important thing that you need to vote for. And if those values and virtues and the character of the individual that you're going to give because when you vote, that's what you do. You give your agency to somebody. You give them your power. And then you have to answer for that. And I can tell you this to be the most true thing of all the things that I know to be true as someone that practices a philosophy that is incredibly important to me, which is Stoic philosophy. Um, is that if you do the right thing for the right reasons, always do the right things for the right reasons. If you do what is in the best interest of the republic, if you understand that the fruit of this life is character and acts for the common good, and if you vote for that, you will be a very, very happy person that lives in a very happy country of people that are all moving in the same direction. And that's the hope that I found yesterday.
That's really well said, and I think you're absolutely right. We saw yesterday the chilling of this notion that you are what you look like. That you are the identity you put out there. It's no longer the case that people think that. Clearly, the millions of young people that turned out yesterday, especially in New York, was a complete repudiation of what the status quo is, which is, a repudiation as well of Chuck Schumer and also of Hakeem Jeffries. I mean, the notion that these well-supported, well-funded individuals are refusing to endorse the groundswell movement because of their donors. Well, they're not in control of their offices. They're not in control of their political agenda. That clearly comes through when they don't endorse someone like the new mayor of New York, which is our number one story. Zoran Mamdani won the New York City mayoral race in a landslide, becoming the city's first Muslim mayor, the first South Asian mayor, the youngest mayor since the 19th century, and the first bearded mayor since 1913. I didn't know that. That's interesting. The Democratic Socialist State Assemblyman defeated former governor.
They went deep with the facial hair comparisons.
I had no idea. So Andrew Cuomo, who hopefully will never run for another office again, he ran as an independent, of course, and was endorsed by Trump. But he was no match for Zandani, who inspired massive turnout among young voters, immigrants, and forgotten communities with a infectious optimism and relentless focus on affordability. His policies are quite simple, yet they're so effective. Universal free childcare, rent freezes, free public transit, and his victory has global resonance from New Delhi to Istanbul to Dakar, but also represents the biggest test yet for what is now a democratic socialist movement in America. It'll be interesting to see how this movement grows as we head into the next election. The next big election, of course, will determine the House and the Senate, and we'll know about that in a year from now.
So I want to ask you a question as a former New Yorker. If Zoran Mamdani was on the ballot when you lived there, would you have given him a smoker's chance of winning?
I was skeptical of his candidacy when it was first announced. I thought it's a hell of a hill to climb. What he was trying to do in this time that we're in. But the more you got to know his policies, the more you understood who he is, and the more I realized that young people in particular were mobilizing in a way that they hadn't mobilized before. And New Yorkers are very plugged in; they're very turned on. They understand politics because they're so at the very, very at the edge of it all the time. And the young people, the groundswell of young people who resonated with his policies. And as I mentioned yesterday, you've got New York is so expensive to live in, especially if you're just an ordinary worker, a middle class person. It is so hard to survive in New York because there's so many people who want to live there that come from overseas, that push you out, that drive property prices up, make it impossible for you to even travel to the city. All these things have become such a burden. And when I was in New York, I worked at CBS, at the big network, where I did the morning news at the big network. And then I worked at the big local morning show at WPIX. And that show was very different than the early morning show I did at CBS News, which was really catered at the establishment and the people in Manhattan and what have you. The one that I did that was sort of WPIX, which is the more New Yorker station. Boy, did you get to understand what New York really is. New York is a lot of people working very, very hard to survive. And yet they're the happiest, most engaging, characterful people in the world. And for them, the smallest amount of money is a huge amount of money because it's a saving for them, and for them, the amount of money they have to spend on gas, the amount of money they have to spend on taking the subway, on just living life, and the amount of hours they were investing
on a $4,000 a month bedroom
I mean,
that is
because
next to your
property
stove.
prices so
Yeah.
expensive, and the fact that they did that, and the fact that they would raise families in that environment and still grow
Yeah.
their communities in that environment is the reason you got a man like Zoran Mamdani winning that election. And there's not a chance in the world that America is not waking up to the ridiculousness of the Trumps and the ridiculousness of the Cuomos and the ridiculousness of the GOP as it was. And there must have been some shocked and frightening faces amongst those behind closed doors, for those senators and Congress people that were there to meet the president today, because they could see their entire political careers disappearing in the election results from last night. If this groundswell continues, and it surely will, this is just the start. In 1 year is not a long time in politics. A lot can happen that could really hurt the GOP next year. He knows it. They know it. And it's certainly the voters know it. They've got the Republican Party on the defensive now and Donald Trump on the defensive. And I don't see how they get out of it.
Yeah, it's a great point. Because it's, politics are about movements, and who starts those movements and how those movements connect to people. It's what Donald Trump did to, turn MAGA into the cult that it is, and it is a cult. Is he told people that he campaigned on two things. I don't know if you remember this in his last election, like 80-90% of the money that he put into winning the election was about two topics. If you look at the Venn diagram of all the research, one is immigration, actually three topics. One is immigration. Let's get those illegals out of here. Fuck them. They're stealing your future, stealing your job. The other one was affordability. Kept talking about the price of bread, the price of eggs, and he's completely whiffed on that as well. And the other one was about men and women playing in each other's sports, trans athletes.
Yeah.
We saw none of that from Mamdani. We saw none of that. We saw none of that from Abigail Spanberger. We saw none of that from Mikey Sherrill. We saw none of that. You saw pragmatism win the day. You saw, someone lean into the issues that really matter to people, which is, outside of the third issue, which is trans athletes in sports, specifically college sports. I think he's got a boner for trans athletes, if you ask me. I really do. I think he'd rather be nowhere else than in the Lincoln bedroom with a man who transitioned to a woman to play volleyball at UFC. That's just me, but I just how I feel. But the interesting part is how Donald Trump, shortly after Mamdani won, how he put out a tweet that's like, "I want to make everything more affordable for Americans."
He did. And that's what he said.
Didn't congratulate him, didn't talk about him other than saying, "So it begins." There was another tweet that he put out after Mamdani won. "So it begins," his ominous, cryptic, ridiculous fucking tweet, where Truth Social tweet. And it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter to any one of the individuals in New York. I think it was like well over 1 million people that voted for Mr. Mamdani. It doesn't matter to any of those people. What matters to them is their guys in office, right? What matters to them is they think they've got a guy who's going to make it easier for them to take transit, rent an apartment, and get food. In a time where Donald Trump's like, well, if you elect that Muslim terrorist communist, I'm going to find it very difficult to give the city of New York and the state of New York money. None of that matters. It's a foregone conclusion. He has to give the state money. He's got to do it. Nothing he says matters anymore. And here's to the people of New York.
Here's another news flash for everyone who thinks that this guy's a socialist and somehow against capitalism. One of the most capitalist-friendly things you can do in a city or in a state is universal childcare, because people, if they have childcare, they can get to work. The reason that many people miss work on any given day is maybe their kids are sick or they have some other issues related to their children. You have childcare. a lot of those issues that you might have to that you might
Yeah,
not
but
have,
stress goes away when you don't have to
you don't
find
have
a place.
coverage. You don't
Yeah.
have someone who can
Yeah.
babysit your kids. All these things are so important. It means that people get to work, they're more productive, have more productive days, less sick days. It is an incredibly friendly policy for businesses. It's an incredibly friendly policy for all conservatives. They should all be thinking about universal childcare. It's very healthy for society. It's very healthy for economies. And that's the thing about this guy. He's not really a socialist in that he's not, they saying he's a communist, which means he's going to take all the good stuff and all the money and distribute it to everybody equally. That's not at all what he's saying. He is providing services so governments run efficiently, so people can do the things they need to do to further their lives, but also to further each other's lives. That is the whole thing behind capitalism. That's the whole thing about America. We're here for the collective prosperity of everybody, not just the few. And that's clearly the difference between Donald Trump and Mamdani.
So the top 3 happiest countries in the world with least stress. I don't know if you know what these 3 are. I do. One is
Denmark?
Finland.
Okay.
No, one is Finland.
Yeah.
The other one is Sweden.
Yeah.
Canada, number
Yeah.
3.
Cold
1, 2, 3.
countries. The cold countries.
Cold countries. But do you know why? I'll tell you why. Because we offer free healthcare. We offer really affordable childcare, if not free.
Mm-hmm.
In Finland and in Sweden, Norway, all of our old people get to live in state-run facilities where there's a standard
Mm-hmm.
for taking care of our geriatrics, a standard for taking care of the senior population. In Denmark and in Finland and in Sweden and Norway, guess what's free for you if you're 18 and you graduate high school? University.
Wow.
It's free.
Should be.
It's free. You know how cheap university is here in Canada for people? You pay like $8-9 grand a year to go to a great university, like a world-beating university.
If you can
whether
get
it's
in these
McGill,
days, it's a little hard
Guelph.
to get in, right? Because there's so many foreign students.
Yeah, but they've changed that rule too because Mark Carney's on the scene. These things are so important. The health and well-being and the lack of stress in the lives of the people that you govern. They are not socialist. They are smart. They are not communist. They're empathetic. They're healthy for a society. Because in a world where Donald Trump thinks he can give $40 billion to the Argentinian dictator known as Javier Milei to protect his investment, he's willing to do that over making America work again, making it easy for women, men, families to be able to get health care for their kids, daycare for their kids, health care for themselves. And that's traditionally what has held America back. That is why on that very list for Denmark, Finland, Sweden, Canada are number 1, 2, and 3. And the United States is somewhere around 43, 44 when it comes to quality of life, happiness, lack of anxiety, all the things that make you a happy citizen in the country you live in. And keep in mind, we live in a really fucking cold country. So does Finland and Sweden. So does Norway. So does Denmark.
Right?
We shouldn't be this happy, but we are because we understand the best aspects of socialism. It is not a bad word. Unfortunately, Donald Trump and his regime over the past 10 years have been able to literally turn that word, socialist, social programs, anything social, into a pejorative, into a label, much like woke. What does the term woke mean? I'll tell you what it means. It means to be hyper aware of social and racial injustices and to take a strong stance against them. That's what being woke means in the dictionary or the Urban Dictionary. And they've turned it into a thing where you think when someone says woke, you're a pussy. You think when someone says socialist, you're a communist. None of those things are fucking true. It's time not only to take America and Canada back, it's time to take fucking words back. It's time to take flags back and the meaning of what stands behind those things. Because I support a socialist, democratic movement in a country of the United States of America where 600, almost 700,000 people this year will declare medical bankruptcy. I support the alternative, socialism, in the United States of America if, and I know this to be true, 20 million people can't have access to health care. 42 million people are starving because Donald Trump refuses to feed the people that make that economy work. That's why I support it. And I think that everybody, if you're going to sit back and kind of look at these words and go, these words are ugly, fuck that. Take ownership of all those words back and the ideology behind those words and the meaning behind those words. That is one of the most important things we could do. And I talked to a friend of mine about this week. And he's like, well, that guy's a Marxist. And I'm like, what is a Marxist? And he's like, well, it's someone that likes Marx. I go, who's Marx? He goes, Marx. I go, no, you need to be more specific. Do you know his first name? He's like, Frank. I go, I'm not having this conversation with you because you don't even know the essence or the origin of where that word comes from.
You know what I think? I think socialism is government. I mean, really, what we want from our government is to provide services for us that can make our lives easier, that can make our kids' lives easier, that can allow us access to the services that we need to succeed in our society for us and for our society. That's all government should be doing that. In fact, if to label anything that's bad as socialist is ridiculous. Government should be responsible to their society. They're elected by their society. They don't get to tax us for nothing. They get to tax us because they're meant to provide the services that we get taxed for. And so, this notion that socialism is a bad idea when clearly it's the very purpose of government is beyond me. And, just a couple of other things that we should say before going. I think everybody who's watching this show, who watches everyone else on Substack, and everyone who's been pouring their hearts and souls into creating social media and fighting the bots and fighting the misinformation and the disinformation deserves a huge round of applause, because I don't think yesterday would have happened unless everyday people were out there on these social networks pushing the truth out, making sure the truth is heard, highlighting the people that need to be highlighted and supporting people like us. And thank you very much for that support. We really appreciate it. But none of this happens without you guys. None of it happens without knowing that there's a lot of people who spend many, many, many hours making sure that these messages get out, that, that social media isn't completely taken over by Elon Musk's bot army and some Russian troll farm. And that is really where the movement has succeeded. And that's everything that happened yesterday, I think, is a testament of success and a real vindication for everybody who's putting all these hours. Because you might think you're wasting your time sitting and, watching these shows or being on social media. It's not at all. This is an information warfare. This is where the war takes place, on battlegrounds like Twitter, on battlegrounds like Substack. And this is where a lot of energy has been put into by you. And we thank you very much for your support, and you owe yourself a big round of applause for the amazing success that happened yesterday.
Oh, for sure. I mean, hey, listen, we can look at the strategies and game plans. We can kind of read tea leaves, but the meta takeaway here for me is that people haven't given up. To your point, people are starting to go, you know what, I'm gonna get onto Twitter today, and I'm gonna hammer away, and I'm gonna take an issue with disinformation. I'm going to start a Substack account, and I'm going to fact check what I heard, and I'm going to retweet this. I'm going to subscribe to narrative.org. I'm going to subscribe to deanblundell.substack.com. I'm going to share what gave me hope and information that I can count on. And you're unrelenting now. You have not, it's almost like yesterday was a validation for so many people, like not just you, me, Lev, Cohen, everybody, Schmidt, everybody. Midas. It was a validation for every single human being who said, I do not recognize what my country looks like, and I need to do something about it. Whether it's a retweet, whether it's a correction, whether it's correcting the record, whether it's signing a petition, whether it's showing up to a protest, whether it is you comforting your neighbor whose husband or wife just got kidnapped out of their house, whether it is the idea that you can't stop this MAGA train from running you over. Yesterday you saw that MAGA train grind to a fucking halt. And I want to, excuse me, I want to remind everybody as we kind of close this out today, and thank everybody for joining us for this FiveStack, and thank everybody for the support, and hope that, the information and the affirmation that we give you was helpful in your journey, which was what brought you to yesterday, which is this incredible awakening in the United States of America, here in Canada a little bit, but we're kind of down that road at the moment. I would like to remind everybody that this is the beginning. Nothing was accomplished yesterday. That dickhead is still in the Oval Office. You watched him sputter. You watched flames come out the back of his asshole yesterday and this morning. You watched him blame everybody else but himself for the environment that has caused what happened yesterday, what is going to continue to happen, which is the salvation of the United States of America. And if not for you, if not for your subscriptions, free or paid, if not for you sharing this content, if not for you being open to the idea that we need more information, we need better information, we need to amplify those voices, but more specifically yours, using your voice, using your platform, using your power, using your agency to be able to help us tell the truth so that we can advocate for you. None of this is possible. None of it is possible. In America, you deserve all your flowers today, because what you did yesterday and what you're going to do in 2026, and I know you will, is you're going to take your country back so you can recognize it again, so you can walk your streets safely, so your kids can go to school safely. And then you're going to supercharge that change. You're going to continue to vote for and choose character, values, and virtues over thuggery. You're going to look to better people for better results, because you're going to see the fruit of that now. You're going to see the fruit of what happened yesterday. And it's going to steamroll that MAGA movement. And I know it, and I feel it. And I want to thank every single person here for not just amplifying what we do and amplifying the affirmation you get from other people to do this, but for standing up for democracy, for standing up for decency, for standing up for North America, for standing up for your allies, for standing up for the LGBTQ community, for standing up for migrants, for standing up for people of color, for standing up for decency and basic human fucking rights. That's what happened yesterday. It's not going to stop. Trump can't stop this. He can't, because you now have a taste. Now, don't blow it. Don't waste it. And don't give up, because that's why we're here. That's why we're family, and we can all continue to do this together.
Well said, Dean. You know, I think that he's going to try become nice again. Maybe he'll try pull the wool over our eyes again, but we know better, and we got to keep the fight up. And let's not forget everything he's done up until now, and likely still will do. That is the FiveStack. DeanBlundell.substack.com is Dean's Substack. Mine is narrative.org, NARATIV.org. Check them both out. They both have incredibly interesting content. A lot of the stuff that made it into the FiveStack today is on Dean's site. A lot of the stuff that didn't is also on Dean's site, and it's all good stuff. So go check it out. Plus, narrative.org. My interview with Michael Wolff yesterday is on there. People should check that out.
So good. Were you nervous yesterday?
Sorry?
Were you nervous? Were you nervous?
I was nervous, and I was determined to not screw it up as well. I was like, he's a legend, obviously, and his books are remarkable, and his insight and knowledge is remarkable. And I don't think I screwed it up, thankfully. And
oh, dude, it was incredible. I watched it this morning. I fell asleep early last night, so I got up this morning, watched it. You did such an incredible job. The insight that he gave, the co-signing of your life's work over the past 10 years was absolutely phenomenal. Just encourage everybody, please go and subscribe to narrative.org and watch your interview, Zeb's interview with famed biographer, Epstein biographer, Trump biographer, Michael Wolff, who has seen the pictures, who's been in those rooms, who knows these people, because that's coming too. And watching you talk to him about his announcement of how he showed up on Substack, where he's like, I'm suing Melania. I thought that was brilliant. Everybody go and subscribe.
GoFundMe's raised over $300,000 on that GoFundMe already, which is impressive.
Oh, we got to get in on it with him then too. Just
he seemed keen to come back on, and hopefully we'll have him on the FiveStack as well, and would
love that.
We'll both chat to him. And today, if I ever get round to it, I'm going to put out The Greatest Heist, the first chapter in the new book, part 2. It's good. The stuff's good. I don't even say my stuff is good. I rarely say that. This is
dude. You said to me this week you cracked the code.
Well, yeah, I understood. I understand what they did. I put all the pieces together, and you're going to find out over the next few weeks as we pack it out, as we unroll it on The Greatest Heist. Hopefully we'll get it done today. If not, it's going to have to be one more day. But otherwise, we'll know soon whether I can pull it out today. So hopefully check that out.
Yeah, do it. Narrative.org. Quick reminder too. Right now, I got my first 3 founding subscribers yesterday. Yeah. Founders. Unlimited lifetime subscription. It says you're going to get another one next year. You won't. You'll get a free email from me saying that not only is your founding subscription great for this year and you get unlimited access, but you get a free subscription forever after that. free subscription forever. So thank you to anybody and everybody yesterday who chose to become a subscriber, chose to become a founding subscriber, annual subscriber, monthly, $8 a month, $80 a year, 150 for life. So grateful for all the interaction. So grateful for your support. You keep Lev and I not only moving forward, but moving forward with these smiles on our faces where we know we can confidently go forward and do the work because you got us and we got you. So thank you, thank you, thank you. DeanBlundell.substack.com, narrative.org. Go and subscribe, go and share. But more importantly, thank you for joining us for the FiveStack, and we will see you tomorrow right around 3 o'clock. If I'm not mistaken, is that correct? We're going to be back tomorrow.
See you then.
All right.
Bye,
Okay,
everybody.
Bye.